Hey guys, it's Doc. In one of the last videos I mentioned that I'd be doing a video about applying lawn products in a kid-safe and dog-safe manner. So this is it, so hold on one sec. Hey guys, I'm going to try and run through this pretty quick, but a lot of people are asking about it, so I thought I'd go ahead and talk about this real quick. By the way, all the products I'm talking about, in the description below I'm going to put a link. You can see all these products and you can order them directly off Amazon through the links. So there'll be a web page and all the products will be on the link. First, it really, a lot of times I don't think it's necessarily the product per se, but a lot of times it's the delivery method of that product. Most products you'll see on the package that they define a way how to apply it so that it's pet and kid friendly. But you have to understand how grass works. So first you have a layer of ground, and then above the ground you're going to have a thatch layer. Now the thatch layer is that dead grass clippings, and that's usually about 1/4 of an inch thick, maybe a 1/2 inch thick, somewhere in there. Then the grass grows up through that. Okay, so you get your ground, you get your thatch layer, and then the grass grows up. And especially with something like Bermuda grass where it gets really dense, when an animal or child walks on it, they walk on top of the grass and the grass folds down, and so they have a layer of the grass in between them and the thatch layer and the ground. So I think one of the keys is making sure that when you deliver a product, you deliver it to the point where it immediately gets to the thatch and then immediately gets either stays in the thatch or gets in the ground. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, I think, is one of the best inventions in the lawn care industry, which is the DG particle. Now, the DG particle stands for dispersible granule. It's patented by Andersons. They use it in a lot of their products. I think it's the best product out there for a delivery method. And they can put several different components or items into that delivery system. And essentially what happens is it's a tiny particle. When that particle gets wet, the substrate that holds it together dissolves, and so it releases thousands and thousands of subparticles within 1 to 2 minutes of being wet. It releases it. So what I like to do, and the way that I apply it, is I'm going to apply something to the ground. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just spray it with a hose real light, and I'll show that to you here in a second. And then I'll leave it there for about 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and at that point it's basically turned into a paste, or the particle is dissolved. Then I'll come by and just spray it again real quick. Now what I've done is the particle itself, I'm going to show you this here in a minute, the particle itself drops right into the thatch layer. You wet it, it dissolves in the thatch layer, you spray it, and it sort of soaks down into the thatch and into the ground right away. Now this is done within minutes. So unlike a product, as an example, people say that sprays for armyworms are better than granulars. I disagree if you have a pet or if you have kids. Because if you spray a granular, that really has to stay on the blades of grass, so when they come out of the thatch layer, they have to come in contact with that grass blade. Well, what else is coming in contact? What did we just learn? Pets' paws, children's feet are also going to be in contact with that chemical that's on the blade of the grass. So if you can get it down into the thatch layer, it's a much safer delivery system. Besides, armyworms aren't sitting on top of the grass all day. 90% of the time, where are they? They're in the thatch layer or under the thatch next to the ground. That's where the armyworms live. So if you can keep the chemical in that layer, you're going to kill them a lot easier too. I actually do for armyworms, I generally do both. I do a granular and a spray, but if you really want a safe way to go, a granular is the safe way to go. So let me show you what I'm talking about here.
Oh, don't you love when I get down on the ground with you? Okay, so what I've got here is I've got 3 different products. I've got PGF Complete, which has some DG particles inside of it. And then I've got, I'm trying to think what this is. It's not the double kill. This is actually the pre-emergent. The brown, light brown is the pre-emergent, and then this is humic. Humic really has nothing in it that's toxic in any way, but they use the DG particle technology, and I want to show that. The other thing you'll notice, the important part about this method is particle size. These particles are tiny. Let me see if I can get that up there for you. These particles are tiny. They're anywhere from 200 to 150 SGN, which is particle size, which is very, very, very tiny. So that particle size is really, really, really small. And what that does is, because it has a decent density or mass to it, as soon as you sprinkle it on the grass, it falls right down into the thatch layer. The next thing I'm going to do, so I've got a couple flags over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle these and let you see how quickly they disappear. And then I'm going to wet this and show you how quickly it actually dissolves and gets into the ground. Now, the PGF Complete doesn't necessarily do that, not all of it, but it's so small, and there's really nothing toxic in it. It's just fertilizer. It also goes immediately into the thatch layer, which is another good thing if you have thunderstorms or if you're cutting your grass too. So let me go ahead and let's put it on the ground. All right, so I've got 2 flags set up over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle a little PGF Complete on one of them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle some of the lighter colored, so it's easier to see and detect, some of the pre-emergent over here. All right, so right away you can tell that it's almost impossible to see the particles, but I can see a few particles sitting there. Same thing on the PGF Complete. I can see a couple of particles sitting around. And all you have to do is, if you'll take a blower, blow this in, just a light little blowing, it'll fall right down to the thatch layer. Same thing here, all these little particles, just blow it, or take a hose and just spray it. Now it's into the ground. It won't move when you cut the grass, and it's ready to be dispersed. So let's go ahead and let's show you how quickly this stuff disperses. Okay, so let me explain what I've got here. I've got 2 little bowls, and I've got the humic DG, and then this is the pre-emergent DG. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle a few in here. Same thing with the humic. And then we're just going to leave them. And now what I'm going to do is, the way that you apply this is, you put it out, you wet it, you leave it for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then you go back and spray it into the thatch layer. So let's just leave these particles. Oh, I'm going to leave them for maybe about 2 minutes, and then we'll come back and look at them. All right, I know I said 2 minutes, but here's 30 seconds. And what I want to try and show you is, that's after 30 seconds, and that's the humic DG. And then this is the pre-emergent. Okay, so here we are at 4 minutes. So let me go ahead and grab this very carefully. Oh, too late. See what it does? It's almost hard to see it. You have to get so close. But these particles just absolutely disintegrate. That's DG. Now, let's look at this. This takes a little bit longer usually, but you can see what happens. You're turning into almost a paste here. So it's a really cool technology. Again, you know, as soon as it rains, or as soon as you water it and do this method, it's instantly into the thatch or instantly into your soil. It doesn't move off. Great stuff. All right. So the summation of this is, when you put out a product like this, if you can use a DG particle, use a DG particle. Go ahead, put it out. I like to use a hose. It blows it right down in. You can use a leaf blower if you want. Just blow it into the ground. But I prefer a hose. It pushes it down and it wets it. Then the next thing, I come back in about 5 minutes and I wet it again, and it's immediately down inside of there. Now, after that, if you want to let it dry, you can let it dry. But once it's down to that thatch layer and once those particles have dispersed, I'm comfortable with the girls out here, even my grandchild out here walking on it. I'm not worried about it. So again, they're not being exposed to it. It's down the thatch layer. You should let it dry. Let it dry. But again, especially with the girls, I don't worry about it so much. I'm gonna do some hand watering back here in the backyard, and it's been almost 4 weeks since I've treated for armyworms. Now you got to understand that armyworm eggs have a life cycle of about 20 to 28 days. So after about 25 days, you may get some more eggs hatching, and that's why I'm just going to go ahead and treat. My grass is so thick back here, I guarantee you, and I've seen a few moths,
I guarantee I got more armyworms coming in, so this is why I keep this on hand. This is the double kill product. And I'll just put it out, and then as I'm watering, it'll gently release into the thatch layer, and it'll work for a good 2 weeks and stay in that thatch layer and kill armyworms. And then after that, it'll work deeper into the soil and kill any grubs. All right, so all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put out a coat of this, and I've got the hose back here, and I'm basically, now that the sun, the shade is starting to hit my lawn, it's not hot, but that water won't evaporate quickly. And that's when I come out here and just sometimes, I've got a few spots I got to hand water anyways, and I'm gonna run the big sprinklers back here today. So I'm just gonna put out a little bit of this. So one of the things I like about this spreader is the fact that, you know, that's what, 11 feet wide, and one pass I get all of that, I get all this strip in here. I'm just gonna come by and just wet it with a hose twice. So I wet it, leave it for about a minute, and then come back and wet it again. Okay, so the interesting thing about these DG particles and why we like them is the fact that this patented technology, as soon as the water touches it, it starts to break apart. I call it exploding. And that one particle will release into thousands and thousands of microparticles. And even if it's pouring rain, that stuff is sitting right in your soil and in your thatch layer, so it doesn't move. So what I like to do, what you just saw, is I came here, I put that wetting spray on there. I'll let it sit for a couple of minutes while the particles get nice and wet. And then I'll go treat another area with my spreader. I'll go wet it and then come back and hit this. So again, I'm letting this sit for about 4 or 5 minutes. Just a real quick light spray, and that's the perfect way to use a DG product. The other way you can use it is if you have a morning that has a lot of dew, the grass is really dew and wet, put your particles out, and the particles will hit the dew and get wet as they fall down. That's pretty cool to actually watch. And then you can come back out with a hose and just rinse it real quick, or run your irrigation system. But I just like to do it this way because it's very, very precise. I know exactly what I'm doing, exactly when I'm putting it down. So I know I'm not going to have rain for probably 3 days. So I'm just injecting this right into my thatch layer. Look at how big this banana tree is. Is that crazy or what? That thing was, when I planted them, they were 20 inches tall. And now they're up over my head. That's crazy. Anyways. Now it's important to remember that I'm not watering the grass here. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just simply getting the particles wet and then just leaving it. So again, it's just, I'm out here in this big area. It's 3 or 4 minutes just spraying it down. Now I'm going to come back to this area. This is my back strip. There's no irrigation back here. So I have to come out and water this by hand until next year when I put the irrigation in. So now this has been sitting here for about 4 minutes. Now I'm just going to wet it one more time real quick. One of the reasons why I call this kind of dog safe is simply because all the particles have now dissolved and I've pushed them down into the thatch layer. So when the dog comes out, and steps on the grass, which is really thick, they're stepping on the grass blades, and the grass blades push down, and they're not even touching the thatch layer, and this stuff is actually into the thatch layer. So that's why I call it kind of dog safe method. Again, if you're going to use a spray, like a permethrin as an example, if you're going to use a spray, that spray has to stay on the blades of grass, really. Even though if it gets down to the thatch, that's fine, but it's all the blades of grass are going to be covered with that chemical or that killer, where the Duo-Cide is not. And that's why you can put it down. You can put it down real heavy, do this method, and it's actually pretty easy, pretty safe. Okay, so now we're back to today. And guess what happened last night? We had thunderstorms, and my yard is a mess, and my pool is a mess. I had to spend an hour out here cleaning the pool. It's been almost 4 weeks with no rain. It's been horrible. But the good thing is, as an example, with this DG product, I put 3 applications of product. I put, what did I put? I put PGF Complete, I put a pre-emergent, and I put the killer, the double kill, up at the front entrance. And I did that like 2 weeks ago. Well, guess what? They came by and cut that grass before it rained. Well, those particles, I'm confident, are actually down in the thatch layer, and then it rained last night. So I'm not worried about the fact that they went up there and cut that. And that's one of the other things about this small particle size that I really want to stress, is that as soon as you apply it, even if you just take a blower over it, they work right into the thatch layer and hold. So, you know, a week or two goes by and you haven't got any rain, and now you get rain. Where are my particles? Well, they're sitting right there where you left them in the thatch layer, and that's pretty important. I always ask everyone to subscribe, so subscribe and make sure you turn on your bell, by the way, your notification bell. That's the only way you can get notified. Plus, if you want to participate in the giveaways, I do giveaways every few weeks. I'm doing a giveaway of something. Go over to the website, sign up, look for the email alerts, sign up for the email alerts, and that way you get notified when I put up one of these videos. It tells you, hey, that idiot Doc posted something. But anyway, see something moving over here. Come here, Cassie. Look at you. You are soaking wet from hunting lizards. You are soaking wet. How did you get so wet? There she goes. I did find she's obsessed with the pool today because there was a mole dead floating in the pool with all the trash I had to scoop out. So she will not leave the pool alone. She thinks the mole is still floating in there. You know, the granddaughter comes over here and she loves to run around and play in this grass. You set up the sprinkler. So, you know, just taking a little bit of precaution, using the right products. Again, the DG particle, I just love the way that it works. Subscribe. Talk to you later. I gotta go make some more videos. I gotta do a shed video. I gotta do all kinds of stuff. Talk to you later, Doc.